Hey, I'm Riley, and you're listening to the Trans Music Podcast, a show where we explore the art, work, lives, and politics of your favorite trans musicians. I've known today's guest for a couple years now. Their name is Kae Diaz, and they're a pillar of the local queer DIY scene. They're a singer, a drummer, a ukulele player, a photographer, and they make a mean cocktail. And as it happens, we're actually currently both in a punk country band called Severed Fingers. I recently went to visit Kae in their beautiful old house in downtown Raleigh, North Carolina. We talked about finding collaborators, what the music scene is like in the Mojave desert where they grew up, and the challenges of creating a space for the art you want to see. Just a warning, we do mention alcohol and some other mostly fun adult topics in this episode. Also, they were wearing clinky earrings. If you hear quiet little sounds like a fistful of quarters or like marbles in a bag, that's what that is. Hey, I'm Riley for transmusic.org and the Durham Beat, and today I'm with my friend Kae Diaz in their really adorable house. Kae is the one of the singers for the band Severed Fingers, which I'm also in. It's like a country punk band, and you also have a band called Fruit Snack.
Yep.
You also sing and play drums and play electric ukulele and various things in.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. How'd you get started playing music?
Well, when I was really young, I always loved to sing. I've always been just like singing. And my mom, when I was little, was like, okay, so a little context there is we grew up really poor. Mm-hmm. So the big American dream of like becoming a famous singer and like making a lot of money was like a thing that my mom always kind of put on me. But for me, it was just like, I just love to sing, you know? So my mom was always like, you need to go on American Idol. You gotta be famous and make us money and like blah, blah. And I was like, I mean, you know, being younger, I was like, yeah, totally, I want to do that. I want to be on American Idol. But like, later on, I'm like, no. So getting older, like in high school, I was like, okay, I'm ready. I want to be in a band. You know, band things were happening around me. Boys were being in bands. I wanted to be in a band. And nobody would let me in their band. They were basically like, oh, you probably listen to Britney Spears. You're not going to be in our cool dude band. So it was like, it was like the boys club that I couldn't get into. So I started playing the ukulele just so I could play for my own self then, you know, and try to write my own songs.
That sucks.
Yeah.
That's so mean.
Yeah. I actually, this person that I grew up with, who my mom went to high school with, his mom, he started playing music around the same time I did, and I was like really excited. I was like, oh, we're friends, maybe we can start a band together, we grew up together, like da-da-da. And my mom saw him at Walmart and tried to like put that idea out to him, and he was like, well, what kind of bands does that person listen to? And my mom said all these bands that I would not have said to him, you know, just like things that were like girl pop bands and like stuff like that. And he was like, oh, well, I don't know, we're trying to like play some different stuff than that, and like da-da-da. And I'm just like, ugh. So yeah, it was like very,
oh, I hate that.
yeah, right? I know, I hate that guy.
Yeah, when I was 14, the guy who shared my bus stop with me in the mornings had like 4-foot long hair and was in like a Scottish folk metal band, and they needed a singer, and I kept dropping hints that I wanted to be the singer for this metal band, and he just was not interested in little dorky 14-year-old me being in his band, which, joke's on him.
Yeah, joke's on him.
That would have been great.
Now you're in 2 bands and badass. That's how I feel about it. I'm like posting about my shows because we're friends on Facebook, me and that guy.
Ooh, yeah.
And he's like a DJ in LA now, and he's like super, like, he reached a douche level that I didn't even know was possible, basically. So I'm just like, I got to do what I want, and that guy's doing what he wants, so whatever.
Yeah. When you first moved to Raleigh, how did you feel about the music scene? Because I felt like it was very hard to like find friends and break into.
Well, when I first moved here, I didn't know a lot about it, but once I got into girls rock, I feel like my knowledge of like the people in the scene and like the venues and the bands and like who was doing what just like exploded, because you know, everybody who just does girls rock in some way is connected to that. So for me, it was like this moment of like, whoa, like all these people who are like me are doing these things, just like and helping each other, like, you know, booking each other for shows, like, sharing practice spaces, sharing instruments. Like, it was like I found Girls Rock, and, like, the foundation of it was, like, teaching young people to do these things, but at the same time, it was, like, people cultivating community to have that in a broader aspect around the area. So I didn't feel like it was hard, but that's because I had found Girls Rock, I feel like.
Right.
Definitely.
If you had time and could just start any new band, what would it be like?
I would love to be just a front person. Just a singer. With a microphone, dancing around, like Beth Ditto, like like wild, just movement and dancing and jumping off of speakers and screaming and, like, yeah, that's a dream of mine, definitely.
So Fruit Snack just needs a ukulele / drum player.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm trying to start a solo project right now, which right now includes me playing the ukulele, because I don't know what else, like, still I don't know how to start a band without that. Like, I feel like if I'm gonna write the songs that I want to write, I need to start there. But I'm trying to be in as many bands as possible, to be honest. Like, I just want to play music all the time.
It seems like you kind of do play music all the
Yeah.
time. And when you don't play music, you're, like, working at venues.
Yeah, doing music stuff.
You work at, like, 4 different venues, 3 different venues?
I work at 3, Ruby Deluxe, Wicked Witch, Raleigh, and then the Night Rider. And they all do shows now. And then I bartend and book, but mostly bartend right now. But then on Mondays when I bartend, I also host an open mic. So. And
you used to work at the Ritz. These are all very hip. For those who don't live here, they're all very hip, vaguely queer music venues / bars. And Kae is always behind the bar, looking cute, serving up beers.
Yeah. I'm here, I'm queer, and I'm serving beer.
What do you think about the fact that all these queer spaces are so, like, alcohol focused?
It's hard to think about sometimes, like, especially being a person who grew up around, I mean, growing up underage, I was drinking was, like, a main focus for me. So sometimes I have to, like, reel it back and be like, okay, do I need to be drinking right now? do any of these people need to be drinking right now? You know, like, and I do think a lot about, like, God, how can we make spaces that are not focused around drinking or centered around drinking, or, like, have events in those spaces that don't have to be centered around drinking, you know? But it's, like, it sucks to think about, well, that's how the doors stay open, you know? Like, people buying drinks is how I pay my rent, or, like, you know, it's... So it's, like, not my favorite thing, but also it's a thing. Like, it's... If that makes sense, you know? Like,
yeah.
I don't feel the best about it, but I also feel like I'm in it.
Yeah, it's like what enables all this stuff to happen.
Yeah.
And it sucks because there have been, like, you know, queer bookstores, or there's the anarchist bookstore in Chapel Hill that closed, and there have been other spaces. Yeah. But they haven't lasted. So maybe we need another one.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I have friends, like, there's whispers all the time of, like, oh, we're gonna find a warehouse, like, a space, like, I knew that the reason that I got this house was to try and create a space like that, but getting the right people in this space to do that has been the issue, you know?
Yeah.
So
keeping roommates, like, rented shared house roommates constant is an impossibility.
And also roommates who are, like, down for people being here all the time, or down for people, like, using the space to play music loudly when the walls are so thin. Like, you know? It's hard.
I didn't know that's what this house was intended for.
Yeah, the first people who moved in here, I found it on Craigslist, and I was like, yo, this is the space of our dreams. Like, it's huge, and there's room to have just a music room. There's room to have an art studio. We could, like, have events. We could have open mics. We could have shows. Like, the sky's the limit, you know? Mm-hmm. And I've been trying to build it up that way, like, getting materials. Like, you know, I've got tables and chairs and, like, about the lights for outside and the campfire and all these things. But it's also, like, I'm just one person.
Yeah.
That's the dream. Still for me. And sometimes I feel like maybe it was like a selfish thing that I thought everybody was on board in the same way I was moving in, and that's why it's been such a rocky road to get there, because
I could see that.
You know, where I was like, hey, I have all these big ideas, what do y'all think? And everybody else just saw the space and was like, yeah.
You know? Yeah, I want to live in
great.
this cool house, this beautiful, beautiful house.
Yeah.
I could see moving in with someone and they're like, oh yeah, like, I love music and I was thinking maybe we can, like, have events here sometime. And you move in and you're like, oh, you mean, like, literally?
Yeah.
Like, oh, you mean literally, like, have random people in my house all the time?
Yeah.
And how that might be you might sign up for it by accident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's also a thing where, like, since I said it, everyone expected me to lead in that. And where, like, setting up all the things and, like, creating the space in that way and then planning it's like too much for me. So I get in this cycle of like, okay, well, let me set this up and do this thing and try to make this work for this kind of event, and then fall behind with like, okay, it happened, now cleaning or like fixing a thing or like planning another event or promoting it. It's just like,
you can't do stuff like that with one person.
Yeah, it's hard.
I was Skyping like an old acquaintance of mine who started a tenants union in Vancouver, because I'm working on all this stuff and I wanted some advice on, you know, how do you organize people? How do you, like, make people do things, you know? And he had some really great advice, but one of the things he said was, you need 5 people. Like, get your core group. You need a core group of people, because like, one person can't do everything, and one person isn't going to be good at everything. And he said for whatever reason, in all the organizing he's done, that it always ended up being 4 or 5 people who all were, like, equally invested in it. And until you have that, things are going to keep faltering and you're going to burn yourself out.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So take it from the tenant union guy. Shout out to Vince.
Yeah. Thanks, Vince.
Yeah.
Solid advice.
He also said you need a book club, which I don't know how I feel about that. But he said it was huge that him and his 5 buddies, I guess, they all, like, read books about organizing together, like, about movements and stuff. And then they talk about it and they all get hyped and, like, educated and stuff.
I love that.
When you talk about, like, organizing a space or running events and stuff, what's your organizational philosophy? Like, how do you balance being, like running events and stuff and not having so much clout that you, like, squash people in, like, the DIY scene?
What do you mean by that?
I don't know. I think that something that I come up against sometimes is, like, I'll organize even just, like, parties. Like, I'll just, like, have parties where, like, I'm the person everyone knows, or, like, my house is the venue in which things happen. I'll find myself, like, wanting to make communal decisions, but everyone is kind of like, well, it's kind of Riley's thing. Mm. But I want everyone to, like, have a say and have an input and feel empowered and stuff. And I feel kind of challenged by that. Like, I don't really know how to do that. I was wondering if you had a strategy.
I don't know. I feel like I just do that by the seat of my pants, you know? Like, I feel like one of my strong things is listening to people. And so when people tell me things like, oh, I would love to do that, I'm like, well, you absolutely can. Like, let me tell you all the ways you can. Like, you know, just, I don't know, trying to help people do the things they want to do. Like, if somebody mentions that they are, like, looking for a place to play music because they haven't in a long time, I'm like, enters Facebook comment immediately, you can practice at my house. Like, you know, like, what do you need? Let me help you figure out a way. Or if somebody's like, God, I would love to see this kind of event in the world. I'm like, well, this space and this space and this space will let you do that. Do you have like someone who would make a flyer for you? Like, what do you need to get that done? I can help you figure that out.
You're like a fairy godparent.
Yeah.
But for DIY music or art.
There were certain people in my life who did that for me. And I feel like if I had never seen the things I have seen or learned or saw or heard the things that those people showed me, that I wouldn't be so confident in doing what I'm doing now. Mm-hmm. So I feel like if I'm not paying that back to others that are like paying it forward to my community, then like I'm just being selfish, you know? That's just not going to benefit anybody in a way that is good.
That's so positive. Yeah. That's so positive. I love that.
I'm just so I'm just so thankful, like I said, not having the chance to like squeeze in to places where I saw myself fitting growing up, mm-hmm. that other people were like, no, you're a weirdo. Like, you know, mm-hmm. like you don't, I felt isolated, and getting out of that, and now seeing so many spaces where I can fit in and fitting into so many different spaces, mm-hmm. I can see people who feel like they don't have a space, mm-hmm. and I'm just like, no, let me show you how to get to it, you know, mm-hmm. like, because it's so important. It's so important to like have that.
You're who I was missing when I moved to Raleigh. And I was like, I want to play shows, but I can't make any friends for no reason. It took me like 3 years to like find music people, because I feel like, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to know where to look. Mm-hmm. It's a big place.
Mm-hmm. When I first got here, I posted an ad on Craigslist to see if anybody wanted to play music.
For real?
Yeah, it was not fruitful. I made one really good friend. Yeah, Girls Rock was the big catalyst for that for me.
Yeah.
Like, if I didn't find that, it would have been very different, I think.
I had to make an OkCupid to make friends. No, for real. I made an OkCupid, and I was like, hey guys, I have a girlfriend in Canada. I know that sounds fake, but I do. Does anyone want to do photography with me? And that's how I made my first friend in Raleigh. But I had been here 6 months, and I didn't have any friends. And you know me. I'm charming as fuck.
Yeah, you are. It's hard for me to believe that it took that long.
So, speaking of confidence, and tell me if you're not comfortable talking about this, but some of your fruit snack songs, I would have a hard time singing in public. I love them. They're in my head all the time. But you talk about some adult topics, like, you know, sex,
yeah,
and BDSM. And I don't think polyamory is an adult topic, but I think some of the ways you talk about it are on the adult side. And like, then you have a song called Puppies 911, yeah, about how much you love puppies. Where do you get the confidence to do that? And is there part of you that worries, like, I don't know if you have a grandma, but that your grandma's gonna hear it?
Oh yeah, my grandma just the other day, I was like, yeah, my band's recording some songs, and she was like, are you gonna put them on a CD so that we can listen to them and like share them with your uncles and your mom and your stepdad? I was like, I mean, I want you to hear it, but yeah, she can't even use her flip phone, so I don't think she doesn't have internet either.
Oh gosh. And she lived where you grew up?
Yeah.
And you grew up in a pretty rural area, right?
Yeah, in the Mojave Desert.
In the Mojave Desert.
Mm-hmm.
Do you miss it?
No.
You don't miss it?
No, I do miss the desert in some sense, but I don't miss the culture that was there. Like, it's poverty and drugs and violence and sad, you know? Mm-hmm. It's like...
And no one wants to be in a band with you.
No one wants to be in a band with me. There's not even nobody even does shows anymore. It doesn't, like... It's a very quiet town now. Which is a bummer. I don't know where the confidence comes from to sing those songs. It's just kind of like, that's what I want to talk about. Lyrics are a big thing for me always. Mm-hmm. The lyrics being powerful in some way, even if the power is just like saying a thing that maybe someone else wouldn't want to say in front, like, yeah, in front of an audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the best part about your songs is that even if they're about slapping people in bed, they're so catchy. They're like the catchiest like pop songs. There's a song that goes, "Do you want to make out? Do you want to make out with me right now?" It's so good. Okay. I don't put music clips in this, and people keep telling me to, but it turns out that the copyright involved is like really complicated. But like that's the music clip. So when you get super famous, please do not sue me for that.
Oh, I would never.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks for talking with me.
Oh my god, yes. Thanks for having me. I had so much fun.
Is there anything you want to like shout out, like social media and stuff?
Well, you can follow Fruit Snack on Instagram or Fruit Snack NC. Also on Facebook, Fruit Snack. I think it's Fruit Snack Band. Ooh, the URL, but it's definitely Fruit Snack on Facebook.
And if you look at the transcript for this interview, there's going to be pictures of Kae's absolutely beautiful, extremely tastefully decorated, like, you know, Manic Pixie thrift store room.
Thanks to Kae for inviting me into their home and for chatting with me. If you want to hear some samples of Kae's music and see the pictures we took, visit durhambeat.com and look under artist profiles. There's a transcript to this episode as well as music streaming and video links. There's also a link to it on our website, transmusic.org. Thanks to the Durham Beat for helping me spread the word about these amazing North Carolina-based artists. And thanks as always to my girlfriend for providing feedback on this episode. You're the best and you have a beautiful smile. And thanks to you for listening. Subscribe to us if you can, and go check out transmusic.org for new trans music daily.